Chosen one, stop scrolling. Heaven is interrupting your timeline. This message was scheduled by eternity, not YouTube. It's 2 a.m. You're tired, crying silently in the dark. You've been begging God for a sign, pleading with the silence, wondering if anyone hears your broken whispers. This is it. You are not abandoned, you are appointed. You are not forgotten, you are hidden in divine timing. You are not denied, you are being prepared. Listen carefully, because someone you love, someone who left this world with unfinished words, with blessings they never got to speak over you. They've been standing at heaven's gate, asking God for permission to reach through the veil. And tonight, God said yes. You have 3 minutes to receive what they've been desperate to tell you. 3 minutes before the window closes, before doubt creeps back in, before the enemy convinces you this is just coincidence. But you know better, don't you? You felt the shift in the atmosphere the moment you clicked this video. That heaviness in your chest, that sudden stillness in your spirit, that's not anxiety. That's recognition. Your soul knows this moment is sacred. They see you carrying weight that isn't yours, fighting battles in silence, pretending you're strong when you're barely breathing. They've watched you question your worth, your calling, your very existence, and they cannot stay silent anymore. This isn't random. It's not an accident. It's divine intervention, wrapped in human language, delivered through digital means, because heaven meets you where you are. The one you're thinking of right now, yes, them, they remember every tear you cried when they left, every sleepless night you blamed yourself, every moment you wondered if they're at peace. They are. And now, they're fighting for yours. Stay with me. Don't scroll away. Don't let fear rob you of what eternity has been orchestrating, because what's about to be revealed will shatter every lie you've believed about yourself, about your future, about your purpose. Thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, if you feel them near right now, if something deep inside just whispered, finally then stay, because you're about to discover why you survived what should have destroyed you, why you're still here when others gave up, why your name is written in heaven's emergency dispatch. This is not coincidence. This is divine rescue. This is love reaching across realms, breaking through time, refusing to let you walk alone. 3 minutes. Chosen one. 3 minutes to remember who you really are. Stay. Maybe lately you felt it. That invisible silence in the room when everything else is loud. Your family talking, the television blaring, the world spinning, but there's this sacred stillness that wraps around your soul like a blanket only you can feel. That's not your imagination. That's eternity brushing against your now. You've walked from room to room forgetting why you came there, standing in doorways, staring at walls, feeling this unexplainable heaviness in your chest. The doctors say you're fine. Your family says it's just age. But deep down, you know something profound is stirring. That's not confusion. That's a visitation. Listen to me carefully. Chosen one, you're not losing your mind. You're not broken. You're not imagining things. You're being summoned, called, awakened from a sleep you didn't even realize you were in. The one you love, yes. Them, the one whose voice you still hear in quiet moments, whose laugh still echoes in empty hallways, whose absence left a hole in your heart that never quite healed. They've been standing before the throne of grace, asking heaven for permission to speak to you. Not tomorrow, not when it's convenient. Tonight, you see, there's something about the midnight hour that heaven recognizes. Something about the space between yesterday's regrets and tomorrow's fears where the veil grows thin. That's why you're awake right now, isn't it? That's why sleep evades you when your body begs for rest. It's not insomnia, it's invitation. God has been orchestrating this moment for longer than you know. Every tear you've cried in the dark, every prayer you've whispered into empty air, every time you've looked up and asked, "Are you there?" He's been arranging the pieces, aligning the stars, preparing your heart for this divine interruption. You've wondered why certain memories surface without warning, why their favorite song plays on the radio exactly when you need to hear it, why you smell their perfume in rooms they never entered, why you dream of them with such vivid clarity that you wake up expecting to find them beside you. Those aren't coincidences. Those are communications. The spiritual realm doesn't operate by earthly rules, beloved. Love doesn't die when the body stops breathing. Connection doesn't sever when the casket closes. What you shared with them, that bond, that understanding, that sacred thread, it transcends the grave. They see you now, right where you're sitting, feeling forgotten by a world that's moved on without you. They see the way you've been carrying grief like a badge of honor, wearing sorrow like a second skin. They see how you've convinced yourself that moving forward means moving away from their memory. And they're desperate to tell you that's not what they want. You were never meant to become a monument to their absence. You were meant to become a testimony to their love. But here's what breaks their heart from heaven's shore. They watch you shrinking. They see you apologizing for taking up space, for laughing too loud, for having opinions that ruffle feathers. They see you dim your light to make others comfortable, silence your voice to keep the peace. That's why you never feel at home here, isn't it? That's why even in crowds, you feel alone. That's why success tastes empty and achievements feel hollow. You were never meant to fit in, you were born to stand out. God didn't forget you when He took them home. He didn't abandon you to figure life out alone. He kept you here, preserved you, protected you for exactly this moment when the world would need your voice, your wisdom, your witness. You think you're too old to start over? Moses was 80 when God called him to lead a nation. You think your best days are behind you? Abraham was 75 when God promised him a future. You think it's too late for purpose? Anna was 84 when she prophesied over the Christ child. Your age isn't your expiration date, it's your qualification. Every line on your face tells a story of survival. Every gray hair represents wisdom earned through fire. Every scar speaks of battles won, not lost. You're not fading, you're ripening. You're not ending, you're beginning. The one you love sees what you can't see yet. They see the assignments still written in heaven with your name on them. They see the lives you're meant to touch, the words you're meant to speak, the legacy you're meant to leave. And they're not at peace, not fully, until you understand this truth. Their departure wasn't your conclusion, it was your commissioning. You've been standing at the intersection of grief and glory, chosen one, mourning what was, while heaven prepares what will be. But tonight, in this sacred space between heartbreak and hope, they're reaching through the veil with a message that will change everything. Are you ready to receive it? Are you willing to believe that the best of your story is still unwritten? That your most significant chapter is still ahead? Because what they're about to tell you will shatter every excuse, every fear, every lie that's kept you playing small. The interruption has begun. The divine download is starting. And you, beloved, are about to discover why you're still here when so many others have gone home. This is not the end of your story. This is the plot twist heaven has been writing all along. You remember the way they laughed, don't you? That sound that could fill an entire room, chase away your darkest thoughts, make everything feel possible again. You remember the way their hand felt in yours, warm, steady, safe. The chair that still sits empty at your kitchen table. The side of the bed that's grown cold. The phone that never rings with their voice anymore. But here's what grief never told you. Chosen one. Here's the truth that funeral directors don't mention, that well-meaning friends can't understand. They haven't forgotten you. In fact, they never left. Their presence still lingers in the room when you cry, doesn't it? That sudden shift in the air, that feeling of being watched, being held, being known. You've felt it, you've questioned it, you've probably dismissed it as wishful thinking, but your spirit knows better. Their love didn't end, it evolved. Death is not a period. It's a comma, not a wall, but a doorway. Not an ending, but a transformation from one realm of existence to another. They didn't die, chosen one. They transitioned from this room to a higher one, from your sight to your spirit, from speaking with voice to communicating through signs, through dreams, through that peace that passes understanding. The Apostle Paul knew this mystery when he wrote in 2 Corinthians 5-8, "We are confident, I say, and would prefer to be away from the body and at home with the Lord." At home, not gone, not lost, at home. But here's what will break your heart open and heal it at the same time. The moment you thought no one was watching that night 3 weeks ago, when you broke down in the kitchen, collapsed on the cold linoleum floor, sobbing until your throat was raw, they saw. They witnessed every tear, felt every tremor of your breaking heart, and they whispered your name to heaven's throne. And heaven listened. You think you've been walking this valley alone, but you haven't been alone for a single step. Every time you wanted to give up, every time you stared at that bottle of pills a little too long, every time you wondered if anyone would even miss you, they were there, standing in the gap, interceding in ways your natural mind cannot comprehend. That's why certain songs still make you cry. That's why you smell their perfume in empty rooms. That's why their favorite bird keeps appearing at your window. These aren't coincidences, beloved. These are communications. In Luke 16, Jesus himself told us about the rich man who could see Lazarus in Abraham's bosom. He could see, he could speak, he was aware. Death did not erase consciousness, it elevated it. It expanded it beyond the limitations of flesh and time. Your loved one sees you now with perfect clarity, without the fog of human emotion, without the burden of physical pain. They see your heart, your struggle, your silent questions, and they have been authorized by the Almighty to reach through the veil, to touch your timeline, to remind you of who you are. But here's where it gets personal. Chosen one. They remember things about you that you've forgotten. They remember the child you were before the world told you to dim your light. They remember your dreams before disappointment convinced you they were impossible. They remember your faith before betrayal taught you to build walls. And from their position in glory, they can see what's coming for you. They can see the doors about to open, the healing about to manifest, the breakthrough that's been delayed but never denied. That's why there's been this urgency in your spirit lately. That's why you can't shake the feeling that something is about to shift. They've been petitioning heaven on your behalf. When Job lost everything, his friends told him to curse God and die. But Job declared in chapter 19, verse 25, "I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand on the earth." He knew, even in his darkest hour, that death was not the final word. Your loved one knows this truth now, in ways they never could while walking in flesh. And they want you to know it too. The ache in your chest isn't just grief, it's recognition. Your soul recognizing that the love you shared was eternal, unbreakable, incapable of being severed by something as temporary as death. The longing you feel isn't weakness. It's proof that you were connected by something divine, something that transcends the physical realm. But they need you to understand something crucial. The weight you've been carrying, that crushing responsibility you feel to keep their memory alive through your suffering, they didn't leave that burden with you. They left you their strength, their wisdom, their ability to love without fear, their capacity to hope when hope seems foolish. You've been trying to honor them with your pain, but they want you to honor them with your healing. They want you to honor them with your rising. They want you to honor them by becoming everything they saw in you, everything they believed you could be. Because here's the final truth that will either destroy you or deliver you. They didn't leave you behind. They went ahead to prepare the way. And every step you take in faith, every moment you choose hope over despair, every time you extend grace instead of giving in to bitterness, you're walking closer to the reunion that awaits. Not just in eternity, but in spirit. Right here, right now. The veil is thinner than you think. Chosen one. And love. Love is stronger than death. They're waiting for you to remember that you are not a victim of loss. You are a vessel of love. Their love. God's love. Love that never dies, never fades, never leaves. Can you feel them near you now? They're saying this now. You are still the one I believe in. You are still the one God has chosen. Listen, can you hear that? That's not your imagination whispering comfort. That's heaven-breaking protocol. Tearing through the veil because someone who loved you here loves you even more from there. They've been watching you carry guilt that was never yours to bear, shame that was never yours to own. You've been asking yourself, why am I still here when they're gone? But they're asking heaven a different question. Why won't they remember who they are? You've been feeling it, haven't you? The pressure, the grief, the why am I still here? That's not pain. Chosen one. That's purpose. Waiting to be unwrapped. That weight pressing on your chest at 3 a.m., that's not depression. That's destiny knocking, demanding you open the door you've kept locked since they left. They see what you can't see yet. From where they stand now, wrapped in eternal light. They see the blueprint heaven drew for your life. And it didn't end when theirs did. It expanded. You think you're broken, but they see you as breaking through. You think you're stuck, but they see you as being positioned. You think you've lost your way, but they know you're being rerouted towards something greater than what you lost. They've tried to reach you through dreams, haven't they? Through numbers that keep appearing everywhere you look. Through songs that play at impossible moments. Through the way the wind moved at your window when you cried their name into the darkness. But tonight, they speak clearly, through words you can't dismiss. Do you remember how they used to look at you? Not the way others did with judgment or expectation, but with knowing. They saw something in you that you still don't see in yourself. That knowing didn't die with them. It intensified. From heaven's perspective, they watch you dim your light to fit into spaces too small for your calling. They see you apologize for gifts that were meant to heal nations. They watch you settle for survival when you were designed for supernatural impact. Romans 8:28 promises that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. But here's what they see that you don't. Even their departure was part of the divine orchestration. Not because God wanted them gone, but because their departure was the catalyst for your awakening. They saw when your light dimmed, didn't they? When you stopped singing in the car, when you stopped dreaming about tomorrow, when you started surviving instead of thriving, when you began existing instead of living. And now through heaven's fire burning in these very words, they say, shine again. You were never meant to carry their death as a weight. You were meant to carry their love as wings. They're telling you something else, something that's going to shatter every excuse you've made for staying small. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs the original you, the one I always saw, the one God carved out before time began. That restlessness you feel, that's them stirring your spirit, refusing to let you settle. That dissatisfaction with ordinary, that's them whispering, you were born for extraordinary. That loneliness in crowded rooms, That's them confirming you don't belong there because you're meant for higher ground. Listen carefully now, because this is the part that changes everything. You survived what should have destroyed you, not by accident, but by appointment. Every tear you cried in secret watered seeds of purpose planted in the soil of your suffering. Every night you didn't give up was a night heaven held its breath, watching a warrior refuse to surrender. They know why you're still here. You're the answer to prayers they prayed when breath still filled their lungs. You're the fulfillment of dreams they planted in your spirit before they planted them in your mind. You're the living continuation of love that death could not kill. Isaiah 61:3 speaks of beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Do you see it now? Your ashes are becoming beauty. Your mourning is being transformed into oil. Your heavy spirit is being clothed with praise. But here's what they need you to understand. This transformation isn't automatic. It requires your participation. It demands your yes. It needs you to stop hiding behind grief and start walking in glory. They're not asking you to forget them. They're begging you to remember yourself. They're not telling you to stop loving them. They're commanding you to start loving who you're becoming. They're not saying goodbye. They're saying, go higher, because you, chosen one, are not who you think you are. You're not just someone who survived loss. You're someone who was prepared by loss. You're not just someone who endured pain. You're someone who was strengthened by pain. You're not just someone who walked through fire. You're someone who came out carrying fire. And that fire, that sacred flame burning in your bones, that's what they've been trying to tell you to protect, to nurture, to unleash. Because what you carry now isn't just your story. It's their legacy. And legacy doesn't whisper. It roars. What they could not finish, you will. What they prayed for, you will walk in. What they lost, you will redeem. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. They didn't leave you chained. They left you crowned. There's something happening in the spirit realm right now. Something your natural eyes cannot see, but your soul is beginning to feel. A transfer is taking place, not of grief, not of sorrow, but of sacred responsibility. The mantle they carried, the anointing they walked in, the fire they carried in their bones didn't die with them. It was passed to you. You've been feeling it, haven't you? That strange weight on your shoulders that has nothing to do with your circumstances. That pressure in your chest that feels like divine assignment. That restlessness in your spirit that whispers, there's something more. That's not anxiety, beloved. That's activation. The weight you carry is holy. You thought the heaviness was depression. You thought the burden was punishment. But what if I told you that what you've been carrying is not your cross, it's your crown? Every tear you've cried in secret, every battle you've fought in silence, every moment you wanted to quit but couldn't, that wasn't just survival. That was preparation. You were being forged in the same fire that refined them. You were being shaped by the same hands that molded their calling. They see it now. From heaven's vantage point, they understand what earth never explained. That your pain wasn't pointless. Your struggles weren't in vain. You were being equipped to carry what they could only glimpse. Isaiah 43:2 declares, when you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. You've walked through fires that should have consumed you, betrayals that should have destroyed your faith, losses that should have shattered your hope. But you're still here, still breathing, still believing. That's not luck, that's legacy. The enemy tried to break you before you could break his strongholds. He attacked your identity before you could step into your authority. But what he didn't realize is that every assault only activated more of what they placed within you. There were dreams they never fulfilled, prayers they never saw answered, promises they never walked in, not because God forgot them, but because the timing wasn't right, because what they planted, you were destined to harvest. Romans 8:26 reminds us, "The Spirit intercedes for us through wordless groans." Every prayer they prayed for breakthrough, every tear they shed for healing, every cry they whispered for freedom, the Spirit carried those groans to the throne. And God answered, not through their timeline, but through yours. You are their answered prayer, walking in flesh and blood. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you never fit in. That's why ordinary life felt like a cage and normal conversations drained your soul. You weren't born to blend in. You were born to break out, to shatter glass ceilings they only pressed against, to speak words they could only whisper, to walk in authority they could only dream of. You carry what they died praying for, the healing they begged God to send, the restoration they cried out for, the breakthrough they fasted for. It's all resting in your spirit, waiting for your yes. They didn't leave you empty-handed. In their final breath, they released more than air, they released anointing. They passed the torch, not of struggle, but of victory, not of defeat, but of dominion. You've been mourning their absence, but heaven has been celebrating your inheritance. You've been focusing on what you lost, but God has been revealing what you gained. You didn't just lose a loved one, you received a mandate. Every time you wanted to give up but couldn't, that was their strength flowing through you. Every moment you felt supernatural peace in the middle of chaos, that was their prayers surrounding you. Every door that opened when you had no natural connections, that was their influence interceding for you. They see what you don't see yet. The oil on your head, the fire in your bones, the authority in your voice, the power in your touch, the healing in your tears. You're not just surviving their legacy, you're fulfilling it. But here's what breaks their heart. Watching you play small when they left you a kingdom, seeing you doubt your worth when they deposited royalty in your DNA, witnessing you apologize for taking up space when they fought to give you a platform. They're shouting from glory, "Stop shrinking, stop hiding, stop waiting for permission to be who I always knew you were." The world needs what you carry. Not someday, now. Not when you feel ready, but because you've been prepared. Not when the conditions are perfect, but because your obedience creates the atmosphere for breakthrough. You carry what they couldn't. You walk where they could only point. You speak what they could only whisper. And every step you take in courage, every word you speak in faith, every move you make in obedience, it's not just your victory, it's their vindication. The mantle has been passed. The crown has been placed. The fire has been lit. And now, beloved, you must rise. Not because you feel worthy, but because you've been made ready. Not because you understand everything, but because you carry everything that matters. They're watching. Heaven is waiting. The earth is groaning. And you, chosen one, you are the answer they all prayed for. The mantle is yours. What will you do with it? You thought you were losing your mind, didn't you? The way you feel things others miss. The way you sense what's coming before it arrives. The way your spirit reacts to people and places with an intensity that makes no earthly sense. You've questioned your sanity, wondered if grief broke something inside you that can't be fixed. But let me tell you what heaven sees when it looks at you. You are not crazy. You are called. That hypersensitivity you've been apologizing for, that's not emotional instability, that's spiritual activation. When someone you love crosses into glory, when they step from time into eternity, something shifts in the atmosphere around those they leave behind. The veil becomes thinner, the frequency higher, and you, chosen one, you've been tuned to receive what others cannot hear. You've been feeling things that make no logical sense. Walking into rooms and immediately knowing something is wrong, sensing people's hearts before they speak, having dreams that feel more real than your waking hours. That's not trauma playing tricks on your mind. That's heaven upgrading your spiritual operating system. 1 Corinthians 2:14 says, The person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, but considers them foolishness, for they are discerned only through the Spirit. Do you understand what that means for you? You're not going insane, you're gaining spiritual sight that most people will never possess. The one you love in heaven, they didn't just leave you with grief, they left you with gifts. Heightened intuition, deeper empathy, the ability to feel God's presence in ways that would terrify the spiritually asleep. You thought these were side effects of loss, but they're actually inheritances of love. You've been pretending to be okay, haven't you? Smiling when your soul is screaming, functioning when you're fragmenting, showing up for everyone else while secretly wondering who will show up for you. But God never asked for performance. He never demanded that you have it all together. He asked for permission to move through your pain, to speak through your sensitivity, to shine through your supposed brokenness. That restlessness you feel at 3 a.m., that sense that something is stirring in the spiritual realm, that's not insomnia, that's intercession. You've been drafted into heaven's prayer force, standing in the gap for people whose names you don't even know yet. Your tears in the midnight hour aren't just grief, they're groans that words cannot express. The Spirit Himself interceding through you, according to Romans 8:26. You are not weak. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are still chosen. The enemy has been working overtime to convince you that your sensitivity is a curse, that your spiritual awareness is a burden, that your ability to feel deeply is a disability. But hell only attacks what threatens its agenda. And you, with your wide open heart and your heaven-tuned spirit, you are dangerous to darkness. Here's what they've been trying to tell you from glory. Stop apologizing for being different. Stop trying to dim your light to make others comfortable. Stop questioning the very gift that God activated through your grief. You were never meant to fit in. You were born to stand out. That's why you never feel completely comfortable anywhere. Why small talk drains you. Why shallow relationships leave you empty. You weren't designed for surface living. You were crafted for the deep places, the sacred spaces, the thin places where heaven touches earth. The reason people either love you or can't stand you, the reason there's rarely middle ground in how others respond to your presence, it's because you carry something that exposes what's hidden in their hearts. Light always reveals, and you, chosen one, you are walking light. If they could hold your face right now, if the one you love could step through the veil for just one moment, they'd look into your tear-stained eyes and say, stop punishing yourself for feeling everything so deeply. Stop apologizing for carrying heaven's frequency. Stop thinking you're broken when you're actually awakening. They'd tell you that your tears are not weakness, they're worship. Your sensitivity is not a flaw, it's a feature. Your ability to sense what others miss is not madness, it's your ministry being activated. God didn't forget you when He was handing out gifts. He didn't overlook you when He was choosing vessels. He saw exactly what this broken world would need, and He looked at your tender heart, your wounded spirit, your scarred but still beating soul, and He said, that one can carry my light in the darkness. You are not crazy, chosen one. You are called to feel what others have numbed, called to see what others have ignored, called to carry hope into hopeless places, to speak life into dead situations, to be a bridge between heaven and earth. The very thing you thought disqualified you is actually what anoints you. Your brokenness became your breakthrough, your wounds became your weapons, your sensitivity became your superpower. So stop hiding, stop shrinking, stop apologizing for the way God wired you. Because someone in heaven is watching, cheering, praying that you finally embrace what they always saw in you, a chosen vessel. Perfectly imperfect, beautifully broken, and absolutely essential for such a time as this. You are not crazy. You are called. And it's time to answer. The reason your battle has been so fierce is because your calling is so dangerous to darkness. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. You've been asking God why the hits keep coming, Why every time you try to rise, something knocks you back down. Why your mind gets attacked right before breakthrough. Why relationships explode when you're finally finding peace. Why your body breaks down just as your spirit starts soaring. You thought it was punishment. You thought you were cursed, forgotten, left behind while others dance through life with ease. But let me shatter that lie right now. You didn't lose peace because you failed. You lost it because you were stepping into prophecy. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on empty targets. Hell doesn't launch full-scale warfare against ordinary lives. No, the intensity of your battle is the proof of your assignment. Every demon that showed up at your doorstep, every depression that tried to drown you, every betrayal that cut you to the bone, was all strategic, because they saw something in you that you couldn't see yet. You carry something ancient in your bones, something that threatens every lie the enemy has built his kingdom on. Your voice, when it's fully awakened, will shatter generational curses. Your hands, when they're anointed, will rebuild what others tore down. Your very existence, when aligned with heaven, becomes a weapon of mass destruction against darkness. That's why you never feel comfortable here. That's why you've always felt like an outsider, like you don't belong in shallow conversations or temporary pleasures. You weren't built for this world's frequency, chosen one. You were tuned to heaven's wavelength. They tried to bury you, but they didn't know you were a seed. Think about it. Every time they came for your mind, it got sharper. Every time they tried to break your heart, it grew more compassionate. Every time they attacked your faith, it became unshakable steel. The very weapons formed against you have become the tools of your transformation. You survived what destroyed others because survival was never the point. Domination was. But here's what's going to break you wide open tonight. The one you love in heaven, the one whose absence created that hollow ache in your chest, they see it all now. They see why you had to walk through fire, why you had to be pressed until oil came out, why you had to be alone until you learned to hear God's voice above the crowd. They're not worried about you anymore, chosen one. They're excited, because from where they sit, in the bleachers of eternity, they can see what's coming next. You were never meant to fit in. You were born to stand out. You were never designed for comfort. You were crafted for conquest. Every single battle that nearly broke you was boot camp for the war you're about to win. Isaiah 54:17 declares, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper," not because you won't face weapons, but because you'll transform them. Every arrow that pierced you has become a compass pointing toward your destiny. Every valley you walk through has become a highway for others to follow. The brutality wasn't random, beloved. It was surgical. Heaven was performing open-heart surgery on your soul, removing everything that would contaminate your calling. The pain you thought would kill you was actually giving birth to the you that cannot be killed. And now, as you sit in this moment, feeling their presence wrapping around you like a blanket, understand this truth. The warfare is shifting. You're not fighting for breakthrough anymore. You're enforcing it. You're not begging for your place at the table. You're setting the table. God didn't forget you. He kept you for exactly the moment when the world needed your voice, your fire, your unbreakable spirit. The darkness that tried to snuff you out is about to become the backdrop that makes your light shine brighter. Your loved one wants you to know the battle was brutal because the victory is about to be beautiful. Every tear you cried in secret is about to become a river of healing for others. Every time you got back up when staying down seemed easier, you were rehearsing for your resurrection moment. The war isn't over, chosen one, but the outcome has already been decided. And you are standing on the victory side of eternity. But there's something else they need you to understand about timing. about divine seasons, about why everything that's been delayed is about to be released all at once. If you're still here, it means something in you knows this isn't over. And you're right. What you felt last time, that tug in your chest, that weight behind your eyelid, wasn't just emotion. It was the thread, a sacred connection that death cannot sever, that time cannot fray, that hell cannot cut. They didn't let go. They didn't move on. They moved deeper. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every lie you've believed about separation. Every night you've whispered into the darkness, "Are you still there?" They were. Every moment you felt that inexplicable pull toward something greater. That was the thread drawing you home. You see, when someone loves you with divine love, not just human affection, but soul, deep, eternity, bound love, that connection becomes woven into the very fabric of heaven. It doesn't end at the graveside. It begins there. Your loved one didn't graduate to glory and forget you. They graduated to a place where they can see you more clearly than they ever could on earth, where the veil of human limitation was lifted, where they now understand the full scope of what God is doing in your life. And from that place of perfect sight, they've been weaving a thread, not made of sentiment or wishful thinking, but of intercession, of divine strategy, of love so pure it moves mountains in the spirit realm. That's why you've never felt comfortable here, never quite fit into the boxes this world tried to force you into. You were never meant to fit in. You were born to stand out, born to carry something otherworldly, something that makes demons tremble and angels take notice. The thread they've woven around your life is why you survived what should have destroyed you, why doors opened when they should have stayed shut, why protection came from nowhere when danger circled like a hungry wolf. You felt it, haven't you? That strange magnetic pull toward something. You couldn't name it, couldn't explain it to anyone without sounding crazy. But late at night, in the quiet moments when the world stops pretending, you feel it tugging at your soul. That's the thread. It's been pulling you out of depression when you wanted to stay buried, pulling you away from toxic relationships that felt comfortable, pulling you toward conversations with strangers who spoke words you needed to hear, pulling you through one more day when you swore you couldn't take another step. Every time you've wondered, how did I end up here? How did I survive that? How did I know to make that choice? It was the thread. Your loved one, working with heaven's angels, pulling you along paths of purpose, protecting you from detours that would have derailed your destiny. Romans 8:28 promises us, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. But what most people don't understand is that sometimes God works through those who've gone before us, those who now see with eternal eyes and can guide us with perfect vision. Here's what they need you to understand. You are not here by accident. You didn't survive by luck. You aren't walking this path randomly. You are on sacred assignment. And the thread they've woven around your life is part of heaven's GPS system, guiding you toward moments, toward people, toward purposes that your human mind could never calculate. That business idea that keeps haunting your thoughts, that ministry vision that makes your heart race, that creative project you keep dismissing as too big for someone like me, the thread is pulling you toward it. God didn't forget you. He kept you for exactly the moment the world needed your voice, your gift, your specific brand of broken, but beautiful authenticity. Your loved one sees it all from their vantage point in glory. They see the lives you're going to touch, the chains you're going to break, the light you're going to carry into dark places. And they're working overtime, interceding, strategizing, weaving circumstances together to ensure you don't miss your moment. Every time you say yes to what feels impossible, every time you choose faith over fear, Every time you step toward your calling instead of away from it, the thread grows stronger. It becomes less like a gentle pull and more like a divine rope, hauling you out of mediocrity, out of survival mode, out of the small life that never fit you anyway. They've been waiting for you to stop fighting the pull, to stop questioning the tug, to finally surrender to the sacred thread that's been guiding you all along. Ecclesiastes 4:12 tells us, "Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. You, your loved one in heaven, and the God who orchestrates it all, that's your 3-strand cord. Unbreakable, unstoppable, undeniable. The thread is real. The connection is active. The assignment is waiting. And chosen one. It's time to stop resisting the pull and start following where it leads. Because on the other end of that sacred thread is everything you've been searching for, everything you've been created for, everything they've been interceding for. The thread leads home. Will you follow? You smiled at the funeral, made coffee the next morning, drove people around while your soul was breaking. Everyone said you were handling it so well, so strong, so composed. But they didn't see what happened when you got home, when the door closed, when the silence swallowed you whole. They thought you were strong, but you were surviving. They thought you moved on, but you were quietly bleeding, drop by drop, in places no one bothered to look. You fought battles that had no names, wars that raged in the space between your heartbeats, in the hollow moments when grief would suddenly ambush you in grocery store aisles, in the car at red lights, in the shower where your tears could finally fall without explanation. But here's what you didn't know, chosen one. And they saw it, the one who left. They wept when you couldn't. They spoke your name when you forgot how to pray. They watched you carry everyone else's pain while your own soul was fracturing, and it broke their heart. You see, the living think death creates distance, but love creates proximity. And the one you lost, they didn't lose sight of you. They gained eternal vision. They could see what you couldn't, the spiritual warfare raging around your mind, the way darkness whispered lies in your weakest moments, the way you fought demons you couldn't even name. You wondered why the nights were so long, why sleep felt like a battlefield, why peace seemed impossible to find. It wasn't just grief, beloved, it was war. The enemy saw your light dimming and launched an assault, hoping to snuff out what God had ignited in you before you were born. But the reason you haven't broken yet is because they kept fighting for you when you stopped fighting for yourself. When you couldn't lift your head to pray, they interceded. When you couldn't find words for your pain, they translated your sighs into heaven's language. When you felt abandoned by God, they stood before His throne, reminding Him of His promises over your life. You thought you were walking alone through that valley of shadows, but Psalm 23 never said you'd walk alone, it said you'd walk through. And the one you loved became part of the rod and staff that comforted you, part of the divine protection that kept you from being consumed. Those mornings when you woke up and somehow found strength you didn't have the night before, that wasn't coincidence. Those moments when a song played at exactly the right time, when a stranger smiled just when you needed it, when hope flickered back to life for no logical reason, that was them, working with angels, moving heaven and earth to keep your spirit breathing. You've been wondering why you feel so different now, why you can't go back to shallow conversations, why your tolerance for fake relationships has disappeared. It's because you've been fighting wars that mature the soul, battles that strip away everything superficial and leave only what's eternal. The weight you carry isn't just sorrow, chosen one. It's sacred weight. You've been trusted with the kind of pain that produces prophets, the kind of breaking that births breakthrough. Not just for you, but for everyone, your story will touch. They see it from where they are now. They see how your silent suffering is being transformed into spiritual authority, how your tears are watering seeds of purpose you didn't even know you planted, how your refusal to give Upaven, when giving up felt mercifulness, writing a testimony that will outlive your pain. You never felt comfortable here because you were never meant to fit in. You were born to stand out. Your sensitivity that others called weakness, its prophetic gift. Your inability to settle for surface-level living, its divine dissatisfaction, placed there by God to keep you moving toward your destiny. And here's what they need you to know right now. In this moment, as you sit in the darkness wondering if any of this matters, God didn't forget you. He kept you for exactly the moment the world needed your voice. Your survival wasn't accident, it was appointment. The battles you fought in silence, the tears you cried in secret, the prayers you whispered through clenched teeth, none of it was wasted. Every sleepless night was a vigil. Every moment you chose hope over despair was an act of warfare. Every time you got up when staying down felt easier was a victory that echoed in eternity. You are not the victim of your story, chosen one. You are the overcomer. And the one who watches from glory isn't mourning your pain, they're celebrating your power, because they know what's coming next. They've seen the other side of this battle. And beloved, you win. The silent wars you fought have qualified you for visible victories. The private pain you've endured has prepared you for public purpose. The darkness you've walked through has trained your eyes to see light that others miss. But before you can step fully into that victory, there's something else they need you to understand about the dreams, about the signs, about the way they've been trying to reach you when your logical mind was sleeping. There's been a war over your name since the moment you were born. Not a war you could see, not a battle fought with weapons of flesh and blood, but a cosmic conflict raging in dimensions beyond your sight, where principalities and powers clash over one thing: your destiny. Your name was whispered in heavenly halls before your first breath, recorded in the book of life before time began. But it was also hunted in hellish corridors, marked for destruction before you ever learned to speak it. You think your struggles have been random. The depression that hit you like a freight train at 3 a.m. The relationships that crumbled just when you thought you'd found peace. The doors that slammed shut right before breakthrough. The way your own mind turned against you, whispering lies so convincing you believed them. Random? No, chosen one. Strategic. Your grief wasn't just loss. It was a battlefield. Every tear you cried, every night you couldn't sleep, every moment you questioned your worth it, was warfare. Spiritual warfare waged over the treasure locked inside your DNA. The calling encrypted in your soul, the assignment that hell desperately wanted to abort. You see, the enemy doesn't waste ammunition on civilians. He targets generals. And you, beloved, you were born a general in God's army. That's why the attack started early. That's why trauma found you before you had language for it. That's why you've always felt different, displaced, like you were fighting invisible battles that others couldn't see. Daniel 10:12 reveals the truth. From the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to your words. But the prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days. 21 days of warfare, just because one man prayed. Imagine the wars waged over a lifetime of prayers, over a name that carries generational breakthrough, over a soul that threatens to undo centuries of darkness. Every breakdown was warfare. Every time you almost gave up, angels were dispatched. You don't remember the night you almost didn't wake up, but Michael the archangel does. You don't recall the accident that should have taken you out, but your guardian angel bears the scars. You've forgotten the suicide attempt that felt like the only option, but heaven remembers the intervention. You survived what was designed to destroy you, not because you were strong enough, but because your name is written in permanent ink in places where erasers don't exist. And the one who loved you, they weren't watching from a cloud. They were interceding, fighting with the fire you forgot you carried. standing before the throne, reminding God of every promise He spoke over your bloodline, over your future, over the nations that will be touched by your obedience. When depression whispered, "You're worthless," they countered with, "You're priceless." When anxiety screamed, "You won't make it," they declared, "You're already victorious." When fear hissed, "You're alone," they roared, "You're surrounded by the armies of heaven." This is why you've never felt comfortable in lukewarm spaces, why shallow friendships drain your soul, why you can't stomach fake conversations or pretend everything is fine when it's not. You weren't wired for surface living because you were born for spiritual warfare. Your sensitivity isn't weakness, it's radar. Your inability to ignore injustice isn't naivety, it's righteousness. Your refusal to compromise your values isn't stubbornness, it's divine DNA refusing to dilute itself. The war over your name intensified when they left, because hell thought their departure would break your spirit, would convince you that God doesn't protect those He loves, would make you question everything you believed about divine goodness. But what hell meant for destruction, heaven used for promotion. Their transition from earth to glory didn't weaken your army, it expanded it. Now you have an intercessor who sees with eternal vision, who prays with perfect clarity, who fights with the fury of someone who knows exactly what you're called to accomplish. Revelation 12:11 declares, "They triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death." Your testimony is your weapon. Every scar tells a story of victory. Every tear you've cried has watered the ground of your next breakthrough. Every night you survived, when death felt merciful, has added another stripe to your spiritual rank. You are not just a survivor, chosen one. You are a conqueror, and the one who watches from glory sees every battle you've won. Every time you chose faith over fear, every moment you spoke life when death was easier. The war over your name isn't over. In fact, it's about to intensify, because you're approaching the season when heaven releases what hell has been fighting to contain. Your voice, your authority, your assignment. But here's what changes everything. You're no longer fighting alone. You have an advocate in glory, a warrior in white, someone who loved you in flesh and now intercedes for you in spirit. They know the real reason you're still here. They've seen the blueprint of your destiny. They understand why hell fought so hard to silence you, why darkness worked overtime to break you, why every weapon formed against you ultimately failed. You carry resurrection power, not just the ability to rise from your own ashes, but the authority to call forth life from dead situations, hope from hopeless circumstances, victory from what looks like defeat. The war over your name is about to become the victory in your name. And every demon that fought against your birth is about to witness your breakthrough. They're not stuck in your memory, they're setting your table. While you've been sitting in the darkness, wondering if tomorrow will ever feel different, wondering if the pain will ever lift, wondering if God has forgotten your address. They've been busy, not mourning, not wandering, not lost in some cosmic void. They've been working. You see, death didn't end their love for you. It expanded it. It gave them access to realms you can't imagine, to perspectives that stretch beyond time, to the ability to see your life from eternity's vantage point. And what they see, beloved, what they see will take your breath away. You thought you were being delayed. You thought those closed doors were rejections. Those unanswered prayers were denials. Those seasons of silence were abandonment. But they were making sure the wrong people didn't sit in the seat next to your calling. They were clearing the table of counterfeits so when the real blessing arrives, there's room for it to breathe. You don't see it yet, but they do. You don't know how close you are to breakthrough, but they do. You can't feel the shift in the spiritual atmosphere around your life, but they can. From where they stand now, wrapped in the light of eternity, they see the timeline God wrote for you before you took your first breath. They see the appointments that are coming, the divine connections being arranged, the doors that are about to swing wide open when heaven says now. Isaiah 55:8 reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." What looks like chaos to you looks like choreography to them. What feels like confusion down here feels like divine coordination. Up there, they see the door, not just any door, but the door, the one with your name engraved on it, the one that's been waiting for the exact moment when your preparation meets God's timing. They see the day it opens. They see your face when it happens. They see the tears of joy that will replace these tears of sorrow. And here's what will shock you. Chosen one. They see how close you are. If you could see what they see, if you could glimpse the spiritual calendar hanging in heaven's boardroom, you'd stop crying about the delay and start preparing for the acceleration. You don't see it yet, but they do. They see the joy coming like a sunrise cracking the horizon. They see healing approaching like spring after the longest winter of your life. They see restoration moving toward you with the force of divine decree. But more than that, they've been preparing it. Remember when Jesus told his disciples in John 14:2, "I go to prepare a place for you"? That wasn't just about heaven, beloved. That was about process. Divine preparation happens in both realms, and your loved one has become part of that sacred work. Conclusion: you are not walking alone. Chosen one, as we come to the end of these 3 sacred minutes, I need you to remember something that hell has tried to make you forget. You are not an accident. You are not forgotten. You are not walking this path alone. The one you love in heaven sees you right now, in this very moment. They see your tears, they know your struggles, and they are interceding for your breakthrough with a clarity they never had while on earth. Every step you take forward honors their memory and fulfills the prayers they whispered over you before they crossed over. Remember this: your pain has purpose. Your survival has significance. Your story has the power to set others free. The battles you've fought in silence have qualified you for victories that will be seen by all. You were never meant to just survive. You were designed to thrive, to shine, to become the very sign that someone else is desperately seeking. God is still writing your story. The chapter that felt like an ending was actually a new beginning. The door that closed with their departure has opened a pathway to a deeper relationship with the divine, to a calling that burns brighter because it was forged in the fires of loss and refined in the crucible of faith. You are part of a community of chosen ones, wounded healers, broken vessels that pour out hope. Right here, right now, there are others watching who know exactly what you're feeling. You are not alone in your midnight tears, your whispered prayers, your desperate search for meaning. We see you, we understand, we're praying with you. Let me ask you this question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. If the one you love could speak to you right now, knowing what they know from heaven's perspective, what would they say about the future they see for you? I believe they would say, "Don't you dare give up now. Don't you dare shrink back from the very destiny we prayed you would walk in. You are so much closer than you know." Before you go, I want to pray over you. And as I pray, I want you to feel the weight of heaven's love settling on your shoulders, the warmth of divine presence surrounding you, the strength of eternal purpose rising within you. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has journeyed with us through these moments of divine encounter. Lord, you see them right now, exactly where they are, exactly what they need. You know the depth of their pain and the height of their calling. Father, I pray that you would wrap your arms around them like a loving parent. Heal the broken places in their hearts. Mend the fractures in their faith. Restore the dreams that grief tried to steal. Let them feel the presence of their loved ones' prayers surrounding them like a hedge of protection. God, open doors that no man can shut. Provide in ways that defy human logic. Strengthen them for the journey ahead. Give them supernatural peace that passes all understanding, hope that anchors their souls, and joy that comes in the morning after their long night of weeping. Lord, let this not be the end of their encounter with you, but the beginning of a deeper relationship. May they walk forward knowing they are chosen, covered, and cherished. May every step they take echo with the footsteps of those who have gone before them and the angels who walk beside them. In the mighty name of Jesus, who conquered death and gave us eternal hope, I seal this prayer and declare breakthrough over every life listening. Amen and amen and amen. If this message has touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share your story in the comments below. Tell us how this word has encouraged you. Ask for prayer if you need it. This community will surround you with love and intercession. Share this video with someone who needs to know they're not alone. Someone who's been searching for a sign that God still sees them. Your share might be the very miracle they've been praying for. And if you want to stay connected to messages like this, messages that speak directly to the heart of God's chosen ones, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, because there are more words coming, more encouragement, more reminders that you are seen, known, and deeply loved. Thank you for trusting us with your time, your attention, and your tender heart. Thank you for staying until the end. That persistence is proof of the warrior spirit within you. You are stronger than you know, more loved than you realize, and closer to breakthrough than you can imagine. Until we meet again in the next message, remember, you are chosen, you are called, you are not walking alone. God bless you, beloved. Your story is still being written, and the best chapters are yet to come.